Here's the thing. You're working hard every day. Maybe you're putting in extra hours at the office, or you're running your own business thinking that the future's looking bright. You're contributing to your 401k every paycheck, trusting that it's all part of the plan. But let me ask you this. When was the last time you stopped and really thought about whether that 401k is the best option for your future? Let me break it down. Like, guys, imagine you're 30 years old. You've been working for a few years now, contributing diligently to your 401k, and you've read all the articles about how you'll be set for retirement if you just keep putting money into it, right? But here's where it gets tricky. What if I told you that the 401k, something that most of us have been told is our ticket to financial freedom, might actually be putting you at a serious disadvantage in the long run? My name is Lucas, and I spend way too much time thinking about why traditional retirement plans are losing their value. If you're someone who's been following the 401k rule for years and you're starting to wonder if it's all it's cracked up to be, make sure to subscribe and like this video if it helps you. All right, let's get into it. You see, we've all been sold on this idea of retirement savings. You put money into a 401k, the market grows over time, and by the time you hit 65, you retire with a nice nest egg, right? Sounds simple enough, right? Well, that's what we're told. But the reality, it's not quite that easy. Let me throw out some surprising stats for you. According to a 2023 survey by the Transamerica Center for Retirement Studies, 52% of Americans have less than $10,000 saved for retirement. And get this, 40% of workers aren't even sure how much money they'll need to live comfortably in retirement. These are the kinds of numbers that should make you stop and think, am I really on the right track? Now, maybe you're thinking, well, I'm contributing to my 401k and I know I'll be fine when I retire. I get it. 401ks have been around for decades and they're marketed as the gold standard for retirement savings. But let me tell you something. There are major flaws in the system that you need to understand. First off, there's the problem of taxes. When you contribute to a 401k, you're deferring your tax payments until retirement. That means all those years of contributions are growing tax deferred. But what happens when you finally retire and start withdrawing money from that 401k? You'll be taxed at whatever the tax rate is at that time, which could be much higher than what you're paying now. That's right, the tax bill you're staring down in retirement could be bigger than you think. Let's break this down with some math. Let's say you've been diligently saving in your 401k for 30 years and you've managed to grow it to $1 million by the time you retire. Sounds good, right? Well, if you're in a higher tax bracket when you retire, let's say 30%, you could lose $300,000 of that $1 million to taxes. That's a huge chunk of your retirement savings gone, just like that. This is what most people don't realize. The government doesn't forget about you. Just because you're retired, they'll still get their cut. And that's before you even factor in inflation, market volatility, and the rising cost of healthcare in retirement. Now, I know what you're probably thinking, but Lucas, the 401k has employer matching. That's free money. Yes, employer matching is great, but let's take a deeper look at why that might not be enough to carry you through retirement. You've heard the phrase, don't put all your eggs in one basket, right? Well, that's essentially what you're doing with your 401k. By relying solely on one retirement vehicle, you're setting yourself up for risk, down the line. This is where it gets really interesting. It's time to start questioning whether the 401k is the best option for you. Let's talk about the alternatives that might just put you in a better position to retire comfortably and with peace of mind. Stay tuned because we're about to uncover the truth. All right, let's dive into those alternatives. First, there's the Roth IRA. The Roth IRA allows you to contribute after-tax dollars, meaning your withdrawals are tax-free when you retire. This is huge because you're locking in today's tax rate rather than worrying about higher rates in the future. Imagine you're contributing to a Roth IRA for 30 years, and by the time you retire, your balance has grown to $1 million. Because you've paid taxes up front, you don't have to worry about future taxes eating into your retirement funds. Let's break down the numbers with another example. Say you contribute $6,000 each year to your Roth IRA for 30 years, and your account grows at an average return of 7% per year. After 30 years, you'd have approximately $600,000 in contributions and about $1.2 million total with growth. But here's the kicker. You can withdraw that $1.2 million tax-free when you retire. Now, let's talk about another alternative, the Health Savings Account, or HSA. You might not have heard of the HSA, but it's one of the best kept secrets for retirement savings. An HSA allows you to contribute tax-deductible funds and your money grows tax-free. Plus, when you withdraw funds for medical expenses, you can do so tax-free, which can be a huge help during retirement. So you're saving money on taxes now, growing your account tax-free and using it tax-free in retirement for medical expenses. It's like a triple tax advantage that most people don't know about. But what if you don't need the money for medical expenses? Don't worry. You can still use the funds for other retirement expenses like paying for regular bills. The best part? After age 65, the HSA works just like a traditional IRA with no penalties for non-medical withdrawals. So you can access your funds whenever you need them without paying penalties. All right, let's talk about something else, real estate. Real estate is a great long-term investment option, and it's something you can leverage for your retirement. Now, real estate isn't the only investment worth considering for retirement. Another alternative is investing in dividend-paying stocks. Dividend stocks are a great way to build wealth, and they provide a steady stream of income, which can be incredibly helpful during retirement. Here's the beauty of dividend-paying stocks. You can reinvest the dividends to grow your wealth even faster. Over time, this strategy creates a powerful snowball effect where your money makes more money. Imagine you buy $10,000 worth of dividend-paying stocks with an average dividend yield of 4%. Each year, you receive $400 in dividends. If you reinvest that money back into the same stock, your $10,000 grows. Over time, your dividends increase as your initial investment grows. This allows you to earn even more, compounding your returns. Let's say you continue this strategy for 30 years. By the time you retire, your $10,000 investment has turned into $40,000 with the dividends continuing to grow and pay you passive income. That's not even factoring in the stock price appreciation, which could add even more to your total return. The key takeaway here is that dividend stocks offer a combination of capital appreciation and passive income. By choosing high-quality dividend stocks and reinvesting those dividends, you're creating an income stream that could support you well into retirement. But of course, there are risks involved with stocks, including market volatility and the potential for dividends to be cut. That's why it's important to choose stable, reliable companies that have a history of paying consistent dividends, like utility companies, or blue chip stocks. Another option worth considering is investing in peer-to-peer lending platforms. This is an investment strategy that's been gaining popularity in recent years. Peer-to-peer lending allows you to lend money directly to individuals or businesses through an online platform, earning interest on your investment. One of the main advantages of peer-to-peer lending is the potential for high returns. Unlike traditional savings accounts, which offer very low interest rates, peer-to-peer lending platforms often offer returns of 5% to 10% per year, depending on the risk level of the loans you invest in. While this is an attractive option, it's important to remember that there is risk involved. You're lending money to individuals or businesses that might not be able to repay you, which means you could lose some or all of your investment. However, by diversifying your investments across many different loans, you can mitigate some of this risk. The key benefit of peer-to-peer lending is that it provides a way to earn passive income outside of traditional stock or bond markets. It's a relatively new investment strategy, but it has the potential to be a valuable tool in your retirement planning toolkit. Now that we've covered some solid alternatives to the 401k, let's dive into why it's crucial to start making these changes sooner rather than later. You see, time is one of the biggest factors in building wealth. The earlier you start diversifying your retirement strategy, the more time your money has to grow. Compound interest is powerful, but it only works in your favor if you give it time. Think about it. The longer you wait, the less time you'll have to recover from any market downturns. If you're not properly diversified, one bad dip in the market could derail your entire retirement plan. That's why it's so important to start today. And I know, maybe you're thinking, but I'm young. I don't need to worry about retirement yet, but let me tell you, it's never too early to start thinking about the future. The earlier you start, the more financial freedom you'll have later on. And here's another thing to keep in mind. Retirement isn't just about saving money. It's about building assets that will generate income for you when you're no longer working. That means you need to focus on investments that will continue to pay you long after you've stopped working. This is why real estate and dividend stocks are so appealing. Real estate can provide consistent rental income, while dividend stocks offer regular payouts that you can reinvest to grow your portfolio even further. Now, maybe you're still on the fence about some of these alternatives. Maybe you're comfortable with your 401k, or maybe you're worried about taking risks. But let's look at the numbers. According to a recent study by NerdWallet, the average 401k balance for a 30-year-old is just under $40,000. While this may seem like a decent start, it's nowhere near enough to fund a comfortable retirement. When you factor in inflation and the rising cost of healthcare, that $40,000 could easily lose its value over time. And don't forget taxes. As we've discussed earlier, that $40,000 will eventually be taxed when you withdraw it. The tax rate could be much higher than what you're paying now, especially with changing government policies. But here's the good news. By exploring alternatives like Roth IRAs, HSAs, and dividend stocks, you can start building a more robust portfolio that can help you retire comfortably without being at the mercy of the 401k system. Let's take a look at how these alternatives stack up against a traditional 401k. Roth IRAs, for example, give you tax-free withdrawals, which is a massive benefit in retirement, and HSAs provide not only tax-free growth, but also the ability to use the funds for medical expenses, which are only going to rise in the future. When you compare these alternatives to the 401k, the advantages are clear. 401ks offer tax-deferred growth, but that comes with the risk of higher taxes later on. And if you're relying solely on a 401k, you're putting all your eggs in one basket. You need to start thinking about diversification in your retirement planning if you want to ensure long-term success. The bottom line is this: you have more options than just the 401k. The key to a successful retirement is to diversify, plan early, and use the right tools to build wealth. So, take control of your financial future today and start thinking beyond the 401k. All right, now that we've explored some powerful alternatives to the traditional 401k, let's talk about something crucial: how to actually implement these strategies. You might be wondering, how do I make these changes without throwing everything off track? Well, the good news is that it's easier than you might think. The first step is simply educating yourself and making sure you're aware of the options available. I know it might feel overwhelming with so many different types of accounts, investment vehicles, and strategies out there, but here's the thing: the more you know, the more confident you'll be in making the right decisions for your future. The next step: starting small. There's no need to drastically overhaul your financial life overnight. You can begin by setting up a Roth IRA or opening an HSA. Depending on which one fits your needs, you can start contributing just a little bit at first: $100, $200, $500 a month, and gradually increase it as you gain confidence and your financial situation improves. One of the great things about alternatives like Roth IRAs and HSAs is that you have control over your contributions. You're not limited by your employer's plan or how much they match. This means you can contribute what works for your budget, and there are no restrictions on when or how much you contribute, unlike a 401k. Now, I get it, 401s still offer employer matching, and that free money is hard to pass up. But remember, once you've taken advantage of that match, it might be time to redirect your focus to other retirement savings vehicles that give you more flexibility and tax advantages. If you're already contributing enough to get your employer's match, consider allocating additional savings into a Roth IRA, HSA, or even taxable investment accounts to diversify your strategy. You should also consider how much risk you're willing to take on. One of the biggest advantages of these alternatives is the ability to invest in assets that align with your risk tolerance. For example, if you're more conservative, you might focus on dividend-paying stocks, bonds, or real estate. If you're comfortable with more risk, you might look into individual stocks, peer-to-peer lending, or even cryptocurrencies. And speaking of diversification, let's not forget about the importance of balancing your assets across different sectors and types of investments. You don't want to have all your money tied up in one type of asset. As we've already seen, having a diversified portfolio helps protect you against market volatility and ensures that your retirement isn't at the mercy of a single investment type. One thing I encourage everyone to do is to regularly check in on their retirement strategy and investment portfolio. It's easy to set it and forget it, but you should be reviewing your accounts at least once a year to make sure everything is still on track. This includes checking your asset allocation, ensuring your risk level aligns with your goals, and making adjustments as necessary. I also recommend seeking advice from a financial advisor, especially if you're feeling unsure about how to diversify or what the best strategy is for your situation. A professional can help you optimize your portfolio and create a plan that works for you without the risk of making costly mistakes. Lastly, take advantage of tax-advantaged accounts like Roth IRAs and HSAs as much as possible. These accounts offer powerful benefits. benefits like tax-free withdrawals in retirement and the ability to save on medical expenses that you won't get with a traditional 401k. Over time, these tax benefits add up and can make a significant difference in your retirement savings. Now that we've explored how to start implementing these alternative retirement strategies, let's talk about the final piece of the puzzle: how to stay on track as you approach retirement. As you get closer to retirement age, your financial goals and investment strategies will likely need to change. When you're in your 30s and 40s, you have the luxury of time to recover from market dips, but in your 50s and 60s, you'll want to reduce your exposure to high-risk investments and focus more on preserving the wealth you've built. This is where the importance of rebalancing your portfolio comes into play. Rebalancing involves adjusting your asset allocation to ensure that your portfolio aligns with your current risk tolerance and financial goals. Now, as you approach retirement, you might want to shift some of your investments from higher risk assets like stocks to more stable assets like bonds or real estate. This process of rebalancing should be done regularly, at least once a year, to keep your portfolio in line with your evolving needs. And if you're unsure how to do it yourself, don't be afraid to consult with a financial advisor. They can help you navigate these decisions and ensure you're on track to meet your retirement goals. Another key aspect of staying on track is managing your withdrawal strategy. Once you retire, the last thing you want is to run out of money before you've lived your expected retirement years. So you'll need to plan how and when to withdraw funds from your various accounts. One common strategy is the 4% rule. The idea is that you can withdraw 4% of your retirement savings each year and still have enough to last for 30 years. While this rule isn't perfect and might need adjustment based on your specific situation, it's a good starting point for creating a sustainable withdrawal plan. You'll also want to consider the order in which you withdraw money from your accounts. Generally, it's best to withdraw from taxable accounts first, allowing your tax-advantaged accounts like Roth IRAs and HSAs to continue growing tax-free for as long as possible. By doing this, you'll minimize your tax burden and give your tax-deferred accounts more time to compound. One thing to keep in mind when planning your withdrawals is healthcare. As we've discussed, healthcare costs are a major concern in retirement, and the last thing you want is to be caught off guard by unexpected medical expenses. This is why having an HSA can be such a powerful tool. You can use it to cover medical costs without triggering any tax penalties, and the funds continue to grow tax-free. Now, one aspect of retirement planning that many people overlook is the psychological side of things. Retirement isn't just about money, it's about lifestyle. When you retire, your daily routine will change drastically, and you'll need to figure out how you'll spend your time. For many people, work is a major source of identity and fulfillment. So it's important to think about how you'll replace that sense of purpose in retirement. This could mean finding a part-time job, starting a hobby you've always wanted to pursue, or even volunteering for causes that are meaningful to you. The key is to stay engaged and find something that gives you a sense of purpose beyond just financial security. It's also important to have a solid understanding of how much money you'll actually need in retirement. This means taking a good look at your expected expenses, including healthcare, housing, and lifestyle choices. You don't want to underestimate how much you'll need, as this could leave you scrambling for cash later on. One way to get a clearer picture of your future expenses is to create a retirement budget. This will help you understand exactly where your money is going and ensure that you have enough to cover your essential expenses while also leaving room for some fun. A retirement budget should include things like healthcare costs, housing and utilities, travel and leisure groceries and personal expenses, taxes, and other unforeseen costs. Once you have a realistic budget in place, you can use it to adjust your retirement savings goals and make sure you're on track to have enough for the lifestyle you want to lead. Now that we've covered how to plan and stay on track for retirement, let's talk about how to adjust and adapt when things inevitably change. The world of finance is constantly evolving, and your retirement strategy should be flexible enough to handle those changes. First and foremost, it's important to understand that life isn't always predictable. Market fluctuations, unexpected expenses, changes in your personal life, these things happen and they can affect your financial situation. That's why it's essential to stay adaptable and be willing to adjust your strategy as needed. For instance, what if you face an unexpected medical emergency or need to care for a loved one? This situation can derail even the best laid plans. That's why having an emergency fund is so important. A well-stocked emergency fund acts as a buffer, allowing you to weather unexpected financial storms without dipping into your retirement accounts. An emergency fund should ideally cover 3 to 6 months of living expenses. So when you're planning for retirement, don't forget to set aside money for emergencies. You don't want to find yourself in a position where you need to liquidate investments at a loss just to cover a sudden expense. Another important consideration is inflation. Over time, the cost of goods and services rises, and this can erode the purchasing power of your retirement savings. To protect against inflation, you'll want to consider assets that can outpace inflation, such as stocks, real estate, and Treasury inflation-protected securities, TIPS. Stocks, particularly those that pay dividends, have historically outpaced inflation over the long term. Real estate, too, tends to appreciate in value over time, providing both income through rents and long-term capital gains. TIPS, a type of government bond, adjust with inflation, making them a safe, low-risk investment for protecting your purchasing power. But here's the thing. Even if you're perfectly set up with emergency funds, inflation protection, and a diversified portfolio, life can still throw curveballs. And that's why it's so important to regularly reassess your retirement plan. This reassessment isn't just about checking your numbers. It's about understanding your evolving goals and adjusting your strategy accordingly. You might realize that your retirement goals have shifted. Maybe you want to spend more time traveling or donate to charitable causes. Maybe you've decided you want to retire earlier than planned. Your financial plan should reflect those evolving goals, and it's okay to change course as you get closer to your retirement years. The key is to remain flexible and proactive. Staying on top of your plan and making adjustments as needed ensures that your retirement stays on track, no matter what life throws at you. Now let's talk about one of the most powerful tools you have in retirement, Social Security. Many people assume Social Security will provide a large portion of their retirement income, but this isn't always the case. In fact, the average Social Security benefit in 2026 is expected to be just over $1,500 per month, which might not be enough to maintain your current lifestyle. That's why it's crucial to view Social Security as a supplement to your other retirement savings, not your primary source of income. You can start claiming Social Security benefits as early as age 62, but if you wait until your full retirement age, which varies depending on when you were born, you'll receive a larger monthly benefit. If you can afford to delay taking Social Security, doing so can increase your monthly payments significantly. For every year you delay, your benefit increases by about 8% until you reach age age 70. So if you're healthy and able to work longer, delaying your benefits can make a big difference in your overall retirement income. It's also important to understand that Social Security isn't a set it and forget it kind of benefit. The rules around Social Security can change, and your strategy for claiming benefits should evolve as well. If you're married, for example, you might be able to claim benefits on your spouse's record if it results in a larger monthly payout. Another key aspect of your retirement strategy is creating a sustainable income stream. This means setting up a plan for how you'll access and use your retirement savings once you're no longer earning a paycheck. One of the best ways to do this is by using a mix of income-producing assets, such as dividends, rental income, and annuities to create a steady cash flow. Annuities are often recommended as a way to guarantee income in retirement. While they can be a useful tool for some people, it's important to understand that annuities come with fees and terms that may not be ideal for everyone. That's why it's important to carefully consider whether an annuity fits into your retirement strategy. The goal is to have enough income sources that you're not relying solely on one, whether it's rental properties, dividend-paying stocks, or even part-time work. Having multiple streams of income will provide you with more financial stability. One final piece of advice: enjoy the process. Retirement planning can feel overwhelming at times, but remember, this is about creating a future that you can enjoy. Take it one step at a time, and don't be afraid to seek help along the way. Whether you're talking to a financial advisor, reading a personal finance book, or watching more videos like this one, the key is to take action. Remember, the earlier you start, the more flexibility and control you'll have later in life. So don't wait until tomorrow. Start planning today and take charge of your financial future.